In this one, it's a short video. I'll just walk you through my pain points when I was trying to make things work, like basic stuff that I didn't know how to troubleshoot. I'm gonna save you a few hours. Once you start playing with all these workflows, sometimes you want to use a Telegram as a trigger, and the correct way to set it up. So right now, if I start to execute a workflow, I'll get this weird error. This is the error. And if you look at details, you're gonna get bad request, check your parameters, temporary DNS resolution failure, basically. And to fix this, it's a weird, especially if you run like a container in a container, like a Proxmox, and then you have Docker, and then you have your thing, and n8n, the back-to-back communication, even if you have proper setup with like tunnel, Cloudflare tunnel from your domain name back to your host, it doesn't always work right away. So you need to go to your credentials, and in your Telegram, basically, sometimes you don't even see this button retry. When you see a retry, it's actually a good sign. It means communication happened. But for some reason, when there is a lag in communication, you won't even see this button for like a minute. So you need to open this window and wait until you see retry, and then hit retry. And this actually should allow us to go back into our workflow, and I think it's gonna work. The same error. So sometimes you need to like try a few times, but basically, even if I try to execute it manually, I'll get the same error. So I'll go back to my credentials. All right, and retry, and do it a few times, I guess. So this lag causes the whole thing not to work. Just wait for a minute or two, let it retry. So this is one of the things that, you know, you can spend hours troubleshooting why it doesn't work right away. Seems such a simple thing, but yeah, it doesn't always work. And the way to set up your Telegram, I've never used Telegram before. Basically, you get your phone, download the app Telegram, and then to get the bot and all the API keys, you have to hit this page. But you have to go to the URL telegram.me/botfather on your phone, not on a computer, because it needs to basically launch the phone app, and then it's going to enable your bot. If you do it from a computer, you can be clicking a whole day long on that launch bot, nothing will happen. So it's another thing. And after you launch the bot, you should see this botfather thing. And in botfather thing, right away it's gonna give you like suggestions what it can do, and you just do /create, I think was it? Yeah, /new bot. Then you give it a name. It cannot have dashes, I believe. It can have underscores, and then it's gonna give you your API key and your URL, basically. So that's how you set up your Telegram. Pretty straightforward. Then, yeah, after you create this bot, it's gonna be a new like chat, and in here let me just type something. Maybe it's gonna clean up our lagginess in Telegram account. I think this issue happens only when you have multiple layers of running containers. Oh well, it ran. Now it's working. Because I don't know what the input is. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The video is not about the input. Oh, our input is pretty interesting. And it actually did something. I wonder what it actually did. Let me look at the logs. And what our AI said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Okay, good. Another thing you can be troubleshooting like ours is with your Google OAuth accounts. So for example, you're trying to submit something in the Google Sheets, Docs, whatever, Drive, and you would get some kind of weird authentication error, even though you have everything set up here. But when you go and launch the workflow, it doesn't work always. So it can be, the first thing you should do to troubleshoot, again, go to your credentials, pick your non-working, let's say, for some reason, Google Drive doesn't work, right? I need to highlight. So you have to relaunch this sign in with Google in most cases, because when it's testing application, the authentication token will last only a week or less, and yeah, you have to re-auth often. And in here, you select your account. Obviously, it's going to be this one. Continue. And select, it already has something. Basically, just hit all the continues if you don't have anything to check. Any options. So now, at least you're pretty sure it's going to work, like this time. Okay. The weirdest one I discovered, even though you enabled all the APIs, is Google Calendar. It's such a weird thing. So in here I have, not Calendar, Google Contacts. I have this node, right? Get the contacts from my Google testing account. And I was troubleshooting this like, I don't know, probably a good hour. Like I couldn't make it work. It would always fail some credentials issue. And the issue actually was with, so for most popular services like Gmail, Drive and stuff, when you go to your credentials and let's say it's YouTube, right? And you do sign in with Google, it's gonna throw you this thing asking what permissions you're giving it. So for most popular applications, this is implemented through this dialog when you click sign in with Google. But for like apps like you don't really use that often, it's not implemented. So Google Contacts is one of them. So when you click sign in with Google, it's just gonna throw you basic authentication. It's not gonna ask you for anything. It just will tell you something is working, blah, blah, and just continue and everything works, you think. But it's one of those apps that you actually have to go to Google Cloud Console. One second, data access, in a data access page. So the scopes, when you get in, sign in with Google and you get the dialog that you have to check what options you're giving, what permissions, that's the scope the app automatically sets through the dialog for all the modern apps that are often used. And for apps like Contacts, you actually have to manually set it here because it's not implemented in the UI. Contacts, like you have to do it manually. And also before you do Contacts, it's another weird thing. So you would think this is the one, right, to enable. So you do enable and you think everything should work because it's Contacts API, right? But it's actually not. On top of this, you have to enable the called People API. Google People API. This is the only one that gives you access to actually read contact information. This is like you can spend another hour thinking why your Contacts doesn't work through APIs. So once you enable both of them, Google People and Contacts, then you go to the data access and you have to manually add or remove scope. You would just search for Contacts API and you would just click read only because I already gave full Contacts, it's already allowed. But basically you would have one option to give full access to Contacts. Yeah, I don't need read only because I have read write already. So once you do update, then you do update and then save. And basically you should have this entry in your scopes. So this scope has to be set manually because the app side on n8n does not implement this. It's not a very used app, so the scope has to be set manually. Something to keep in mind. Yeah, I'll save you probably an hour of troubleshooting. Once you start playing with n8n containers and command execution, and especially if you're multiple layers down in a containerization, like Proxmox, like for example, right? You can run commands like ping. Even though I gave raw socket access, you can run it from in this setup for some reason. I don't know. I troubleshoot, I couldn't make it work. So you would have to use some other commands like wget or curl and use some logic for basically to digest the data. If it went through, then it's okay, test is okay, things like that. But do not be afraid to play with your configuration for the n8, how it builds and what commands it runs. So basic thing you can do is you can go into your Docker container in like shell mode. So this is a simple command, docker compose exec container name and shell. And in here you can see I can, let's say I want to do ping google.com. You see, I got permission denied. Are you root? Because I'm in container, and for some reason I cannot make it work, the ping. If I do any other command, like I do, let's say, curl google.com, I got some response, basically. So this is something to keep in mind, and you can always check what commands you have available to run in your command execution node. And keep in mind, this is some kind of Alpine Linux. It's like bare bone Linux. There is not much here. In order to install tools that you need, sometimes you need to modify your Docker. So by default, I think everybody installed it through Docker Compose. In order to add like more tools into your n8n containers that you run, you actually have to modify, you have to create Dockerfile. So the structure would be, you have Docker Compose, and then you have this Dockerfile in which you specify what you want to do with, like what kind of additions you want to do. Like, let's say in this case, I do this one almost like apt-get, but it's Alpine syntax. Basically, I'm installing curl bash libraries and proxy chain ng. I was trying to do something, and also I'm getting a speed test archive that I can install. And then you see there is command execution that accepts license, because if you don't accept it, basically it doesn't work. Anyways, you put all these small commands in here, and then you tell Docker to build using this Dockerfile. Like, basically that's what you do. Docker Compose pull, so it pulls all of the fresh stuff, and then Docker Compose up and build. It's not gonna run the latest one, it's gonna build one based on your Docker files that you just created. And -d will run it as a process, and remove orphan, remove all the stale containers that no longer in use. So don't be afraid to play with the Dockerfile. If you make an error here, it will just throw you an error and like tell you you cannot do that. Whatever you had configured, it's not gonna break. Yeah, it's gonna remain in the database. If you add new Dockerfile, you're not gonna break things. Like, let's say I want to run speed test on all my proxies, and I can't do that because the tool is not there, so I have to install it. And yeah, just keep in mind that the tools that on your Linux or whatever machine you're running are not available on your Docker n8n. It's a separate container. It has its own tools, pre-installed, very little. So you cannot use whatever you have installed on your machine. Just some people might get confused with that. For Telegram, playing with Telegram, let's say if you want to transcribe Telegram audio, I'll just show you a little bit of this workflow. I'm not going to run it. It's going to be nice. I'll show the whole workflow in the next video. This one is just some highlights, what I learned so far. Basically, when you want to transcribe Telegram with Gemini, you have to do some data mangling. You have to execute this code. Otherwise, you just need to basically put it on a disk. It cannot just grab it from previous node. For some reason, I tried, and I saw people connect these directly to some other chat model. Somehow it takes it, but with Gemini, you have to put it on locally, you have to store it, and then the Gemini can ingest it as just data, and it works pretty well actually. So this basic workflow, this one, works with either text or voice. It automatically transcribes voice into text commands, and the same text just goes directly here. And at the end, we just set one field, message. And I'll show you this workflow in the next video. Another way to run it, like let's say if you want to run it in the background, is this one, toggle. You just click activate, and you see this workflow activated. Got it. And so now if I get my phone, do internet check and proxy check and send an email to Silverfoil Surfer CC test user. It's not showing here because the way it ran actually went into execution. If I look at the logs, nothing here. And you see in the background it's actually running. So the whole thing is running. Even though like it appears like nothing happens, you see once it's active, it's actually running in the background. What we can do is, I would get a report back in my Telegram, I think, once the node is done, and also I get an update. I should get proxy report, yeah, as a workflow executed, so I got my network performance. The proxy check doesn't work properly because all the stuff is correct, but the speed is wrong. Actually not that trivial to trick speed test to go through proxies. And yeah, you see in my Telegram, this was me asking. Do internet check. And this is email sent. It's sent to 2 contacts, which is correct. And this is brief data. I hope you're getting the power of this. I'm just scratching the surface. It's like been a week only playing with this, and imagine the workflow. Anyways, I'll make another video, so let me deactivate so I don't forget. I'll make another video going in detail through this workflow that runs another workflow and stuff like that. But I hope it was helpful. If you want to see more of this workflow, check out my next video and I'll see you there.